I call this meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
John Mullen, Owen Curley,
Here.
Alexi Gonzalez,
Here.
Jeff Trular, Todd Smith,
Here.
Jennifer Williams, Matt Metz.
Here. Thank you. The Board of Adjustment meetings are quasi-judicial in nature. All decisions of the board will be based on competent, substantial evidence, including testimony provided in this meeting. Any person who is not an applicant or agent who wishes to speak will need to fill out a speaker's card located on the side table by the door and turn them into the clerk. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each item once we open the public hearing. Please refrain from speaking from the audience, and applause or cheering will not be allowed. Lastly, please silence your cell phones. Before we move on to approval of minutes, I just want to let any of the applicants or agents in the audience know that we are technically allowed to hold a meeting and vote on cases with 4 people here. Normally, if we had the full board, there would be 5 voting members, so you would be, you would have a majority of 3 to 2, like as long as you got 3 to 2 votes, your measure would pass. With 4 members only, 3 of us would have to vote yes for your request to pass. So if you prefer to defer your item to a later meeting when there might be more members of the board here, you're welcome to do so, but if you would let us know, and then we can account for that as we move through the agenda. Otherwise, you're welcome, we'll just carry on the meeting as scheduled. Okay. Then we will continue as scheduled. Moving on to approval of minutes. Our last minutes are from the July 18th meeting. If everyone's had a chance to review, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the July 18th, 2023 meeting. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes from July 18th have been approved. Any correspondence?
No.
Okay. And seeing no old business on the agenda, can we please call the first item of new business?
Board calls case number BOA 23-100066, property address 460 33rd Avenue South. Motion to consider 34-337 E1E for lot coverage of 48% and lieu of 35% maximum to allow for a widened driveway with pavers to an existing single-family home dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none. But none. I've had none.
And I've had none. Would the applicant or agent please be sworn in to give your testimony?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
David Fox, and 460 33rd Avenue South.
Thank you. Can you please tell us the nature of the hardship at this property?
Yeah, I sold the property, and I have a pool permit that didn't get closed in 2018. I widened the driveway with pavers by 3 feet and did a little walkway around the trash can, and they put me over lot coverage by 3%. I'd already had approval to 45%, and I went over by the 3. So there's money held in escrow based on the sale until I get either lot coverage approved to 48% or get it, maybe down to 45. I don't know, tear stuff up.
Thank you. And I see that your lot is undersized per the land development code.
It's a 53 by 120. The rest on the street are 48 by 120, so I don't know what that means.
Okay. Technically, you're in a residential single-family zoning district where the minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet, and your home is just shy of 65, or your property is just shy of 6,500 square feet. So it is, it might be relative to the other homes on the block, but for your zoning district, it's undersized.
Undersized, okay.
Can you tell us about the parking situation at your property? How much parking did you have before you widened the driveway, and how much do you have now?
Literally, it's the same width of driveway. The driveway, the pavers went garage door, from one end of the garage door to the other. And I had a Suburban, my wife had an Escalade, and it was really hard to kind of park, so we just widened it out by 3 feet and then did the walkway. So it still is only going to fit 2 cars. It's not going to fit any more than 2 cars, if that's what you're asking. And I went wide. It's not like I went longer or anything like that. And then I did a little walkway around the trash cans that are inside the house, so you don't have to drag them through the grass or gravel.
be seated, and I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any speakers cards?
We have one speaker card, Nancy Martin, 333 Isabella.
Okay, you have to be sworn in first.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address.
I'm Nancy Martin, my address is 3333 Isabella, so I'm around the corner.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to check on a couple of things, because the way that the permit was written, it said existing proposed, so I wanted to confirm that they're not asking to add more pavers or change anything like that. The survey that they presented is what it is now, and it's not going to change.
Okay, thank you. Will, we can
That is
ask
accurate.
the applicant.
Not gonna change, yeah.
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
accurate.
Hold on. We'll have to make sure that your comments are recorded at the podium. So we can't answer that question, but we can bring him back up
Okay.
after your.
And then the second thing is that I noticed that you mentioned that the zoning is RS1, but if you look in the document, it's RS2. The property had been zoned RS1 in 2013. When the builders were originally submitting the permit, and then in 2015, the zoning changed to RS2 because none of our lots are a minimum of 10,000 feet. They're minimum, RS2 is minimum of 7,500 feet. So the zoning is different than what you've got on the paperwork. The zoning has changed, and I checked with the city of Jacksonville, the property appraiser's office, and they said that it changed in 2015. And then the other thing is that the flood zone has changed from zone X to now the 0.2% floodplain. So that property is now in the 500-year floodplain, as are some that are going up 33rd and 34th. And that wasn't like that a few years ago when the variance was given. So that's the only things I wanted to say. But I'm glad to hear that they're not asking to widen the driveway anymore. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? And if so, can you please fill out a card before you leave? Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing on this item. You're speaking?
I'm sorry.
No, you can turn it in. We just won't call you. Just leave it. And if the applicant would care to come up and address any of the comments made during the public hearing.
That is accurate. The property's going to stay the exact same. No changes are going to be made. That way I don't have to pull the side of the driveway up. So nothing's going to change.
Okay, thank you. I will now bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 23-100066 based on the testimony and evidence provided. The request has met all the standards for variance is outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code. Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And actually, before we get discussion, can we get some clarification on the zoning district of the property? Okay. Any discussion while Christian is looking for an answer? Okay, so on the agenda, it looks like it's listed as RS2. In the staff report, it's listed as RS1. That being said, if it is in fact RS2, the lot is still undersized by about 1,000 square feet. Per code, it might be similarly sized to neighboring homes, but it's about 1,000 square feet less than the minimum lot size. The staff report says, yes, it is, it's undersized in width at 52 feet. It's significantly undersized. Oh, well, there's a 90 feet minimum required in RS1, which is what's in the staff report. What is the minimum width in RS2?
75 feet.
Okay, so again, it's undersized by less, but still pretty significantly undersized. So now that we have that settled, is there any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes, your request has been approved. And before we call the next case, I seem to have broken my little clock here. It's not recording the time when our member of the public came to speak. But I'm happy to keep the time on my own watch if you can't figure it out. I just want to make sure we're being fair. This unplugged and this plugged in. Sorry. Oh, and you can start with the next case, I think, if we're.
Okay, board calls BOA 23-100067. Property address 4035 Duval Drive. Motion to consider 34-336 E1E for lot coverage of 38% in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for stepping stones at existing single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please step forward and be sworn in to give your testimony? And I'm happy to keep the time on my own clock.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
James Howard, 4035 Duval Drive, Jack's Beach.
Thank you. Can you tell us the nature of the hardship at your property?
I've never owned a home at the beach. I've always lived in town, and I've never, in 69 years, never had a pool. My wife asked me to build this house at the beach, which we did, not truly having a grasp of what having a pool, the responsibilities of having a pool are, and that includes grandchildren. And so we built the pool and didn't have a good grasp on what our needs would be. And it turns out that we need to have a way for them to get from the back of the property at the pool, where the ocean is, to the bathroom, which is up by the garage. It's just not possible for them to do it without tearing up their feet and getting into all sorts of skirmishes that they get along the way. So I've asked that, I had previously asked to have a driveway, a sidewalk. I was rejected. So I've said, could I have stepping stones so that they could meet the minimum requirements to get from back to front, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. And I also understand from the staff report that your lot is undersized in width and unusually deep, which
That is
adds
correct.
to your, the need at your property for ability to kind of traverse that depth.
Yeah, I didn't want any extra, I didn't want the stepping stones, but I will be killed if I get back and I don't have the stepping stones by somebody else I can name.
Have you, this might be more of a question for staff, but have you looked into options where the stepping stones, I believe that the code allows for stepping stones to be, as long as they're a certain distance apart, that they don't actually count against your lot coverage? Is that correct in any circumstances?
That is true, but we also have a minimum size for the actual stepping stones, which is no more than 18 inches. These are rather large and custom made for the property, so they're quite bigger than that.
Okay.
They have a gap in between so that the water could drain off, and they, sort of meet them. They don't meet the minimum requirement for the kids to step, but hopefully in the future they will, as the kids get bigger.
And you already have the pool in, all of the,
We do.
any landscaping that would be done in the backyard or decking is already completed and accounted for in your current 35%?
It is.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant?
It looks like you've got stones going, or paver steps on either side of the property. Can you speak to why that would be part of your need versus a one side?
Just so they can go and come.
On both the north and south side of the home?
Yes.
Any additional questions? Okay, hearing none,
Should I sit down?
you may be seated for now, and I'll open the public hearing. Do you have any speakers cards?
No speaker cards.
And no correspondence, right? Is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 23-100067. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Undersized lot, seems pretty judicious in his request for additional lot coverage. I think this is very reasonable for an undersized lot.
Yeah, and I will point out, it's not undersized in square footage, though it is undersized in width and then has uniqueness to it in how deep it is. But I also want to point out that it addresses the criteria 5, granting a variance is the minimum required. So by requesting stepping stones, that's a more minimal request and a more minimally invasive on the property request than just paving a sidewalk. Any further discussion?
I have a different interpretation of those points. I don't see the width as a factor or variable in what their request is, which is access from the rear to the front of the property, and the request being related to percent coverage. The applicant spoke to building the home, so they had access to decide how large that home and driveway and other access points would be at that time, and max to the 35%. And then in terms of minimum requests, to my earlier comment, requesting the applicant to speak toward whether or not it was necessary to have both north and south pavers. If the issue is being accessed from the back of the yard to the front of the yard, it seems intuitive to me that that could be minimally achieved by having one side of the home with pavers, and then to the note from staff, if there are alternative pavers available that would still allow them to achieve the objective of having the access point without increasing the lot coverage. And there's no other reason provided that they would need these custom pavers designed for this home. I don't see this as the minimum viable solution to the problem or any reasonable use case defined by restrictions on the lot, not of the applicant's creation.
Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
No.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request has been approved. Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 22-120070, property address 120 Secret Drive. Motion to consider 34-336E1E for lot coverage of 41.7% and a 35% maximum to allow for an existing pool, rear patio pavers, pavilion, and driveway to address existing nonconformities as single-family dwelling.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak when we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
None.
I've had none.
And I've had none. Will the applicant please be sworn in to give your testimony?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please each state your name and address.
I'm Todd Perkins, the owner, 120 Seagrape Drive, Jacksonville Beach.
Mark Casey Connor, the general contractor, performing the addition on the bathroom.
Thank you. Can you tell us the nature of the hardship at your property?
Yes, we started out, or he purchased the property in 2009, and I believe there was if you look at the survey, the existing driveway, including the pavers that are there, were all there at the time of the purchase.
Yeah, the pavers weren't, but the driveway was exactly the same size.
And then in 2011, I believe it was, he had Surfside put in the pool. And from what I'm currently doing is adding square footage to the master bathroom. The pool is in the back of the lot. If you see in the bottom, let me see if I can get mine. It's in the back left corner, but it doesn't quite show it on that survey, I don't think, where we're at. But if you were to look where the pool is at the back, and still on the patio of the pavers, we are adding square footage to the house, but we are not impacting the square footage of the permeability space. And this came up this year when I went to pull this permit. I don't believe he's had any neighbors that have complained since 2011 about what coverage he currently has. And there's currently a shed in the back left corner, and then there's a pavilion that he built, self-built. When did you say that was?
And 2017.
Okay, and so there's been no issues with any homeowners or anybody with what's existing. And when we applied to build this, extend this master bathroom over already permeable space, it came up that there was a nonconformity. So we're here, from what I see on the property appraisers, it looked like the pool is already demonstrated as being part of the property, so I assume that there were permits pooled. They would have covered that square footage request. I don't really know the ins and outs of why they would have been able to get the pool and gone over the square footage, because the pavilion and the shed that are there, if you do the calculation, would be over the 35%. If you had taken those out, which were done after the pool. So I'm here hoping that you guys would say is if everything is as it was and no one's upset about it, that we just continue on and allow the variance for us to just finish the pool or the master bathroom that's there.
And, sorry, just so I'm following, so you did put in the pool when you were the homeowner?
Yes.
And you had no inclination from your builders that you were going over the lot coverage, or there was no discussion of that in the permitting process?
No, I honestly don't think any permits were pulled, and it was Surfside that did the pool. And the reason why we think that is because the driveway is enormous, and I don't know if by putting the pool in and the pavers that we had, I think alone that would have put us over the amount of the 35%. So, you know, we put, in 2010, we put that, you can see in the back left corner, we put, all there is just a flat, basically stadium for the, or base for the shed, which we are getting rid of that, so that'll save some of it. But we put the pavilion in, a buddy and I built it. So anyway, and then we started down this process, and you know, we saw that we were over lot coverage. I'm like, I don't know how that could be, because alone the pool would have put us over the lot coverage. So I don't think the city would have been, you know, too appreciative of that, or I don't think would have been allowed, you know, if they, you know, if that had been done. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that if you can find a way to maybe give us an exception, kind of given that we're not actually increasing any at all, it's going to remain basically the same as it already was.
And you said you'll be pulling out some coverages. Has that already been calculated in the 41.7%?
It has not.
So it would be even less than 41.7 after you remove.
The shed, that's correct.
Do you have any idea what that would be?
We do the shed going away. Sorry, give me just a second. The shed's 77 square feet.
Yes.
Yes, can you do our math for us?
Does anybody have questions of the applicant in the meantime?
Yeah, I mean, you say you built an accessory structure.
Yes.
Where is that located at?
See, it's, if you're looking at the pool to the right, it's a pavilion looking thing.
You'll have to submit that through the clerk.
That's the same
The
size.
same
Oh,
paper,
right.
there's actually a pavilion there. The same paper, there's a pavilion there.
Yeah, there's a pavilion with pavers underneath it, to clarify that.
And that wasn't permitted either?
No, it's a buddy and I built it.
But it has been calculated into
This overall number,
With the current
yes,
survey.
that's
Yes.
correct. Yeah.
But who put in all the pavers? Was that part of the pool?
Yes, sir. And the driveway's pavered, and I had that done in 2016, but it's exactly the same size as the former driveway, which was just cement. So yes, the pavers were put in along with the pool as part of the whole package from the side.
The pavers under the existing, or under the pavilion that you and your Fred built, were those there already?
No, those weren't there. Those were not there already. Those were added.
They were part of the pool?
No, those weren't part of the pool.
Okay.
Those are separate.
What do you think? What's the percentage without the shed?
Chris is still trying. He's still.
It's never printed.
What's the percentage without the shed?
77.
77 square feet?
Yes. Yeah, that divided into 11,389 square feet for the lot is 0.67%.
So it would not really,
It doesn't get us down to 35% for sure.
right?
And
To get us down to 35, I'm led to believe it would be removing the pavilion, removing the shed, and then the colored checkered or
yeah, the hashtag, can you see like the kind of partial triangle that's in the driveway at the top left corner?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be removing
no, it's right. Yeah, the kind of to the left.
yeah,
Right
the
there.
driveway. So
That whole spot.
That triangle right there is a huge portion that we would have to take out to get us down. And that's where I believe that there's no way, that was existing as concrete before he pavered it. So he says he didn't change any square footage there. So to have been able to put the pool in back in 2011, I don't quite, I mean, is there a way for you to check to see if the pool was permitted?
Yeah, that was probably
It was?
Through the chair, the pool was permitted in 2011, and based on the submitted site plan, which does match the existing, it was calculated at 35%. And it, I mean, verbatim matches that they have there as the proposed site plan. So I think the city reviewed it and probably at the time didn't verify the square footage, but it was listed as a 35, it was permitted to look like that, but it ended up being 41 and some change when they were done, or whatever, I remember. Was in the report.
In that plan from 2011, can you verify whether or not the square footage that's covered by the pavilion that was added after the fact was actually part of that? Is it already pavered area or covered space then, or is that additional
Where is
covered
the
space?
pavilion?
This is the same plan, so it's here.
It sounds like he built it after and
Okay.
And then that's the shed back there, we're gonna take out.
All right, so the pavilion is not on the site plan. The driveway is the same, the pool deck is the same, and the screen enclosure is the same. But the,
Screen enclosure is now gone.
Yeah, we've removed the screen enclosure for,
But that was over paved.
it was covered area, yeah, but the screen enclosure's gone away and the paved area for that has gone away currently. We took that off, we did a master bathroom addition, but then we removed the screen enclosure also in this work. that
And
we-
those were on separate, it wasn't like one replaced the other, they were at separate
Correct,
parts of the house.
that's right.
Is there any potential or, flexibility in your plans to get the lot coverage less than 41.7?
I don't think we have. So if you took away that, where we did the screen enclosure, it would bring it down. I don't have that calculation right in front of me though, because in order to get the building permit, we signed an agreement that if you guys voted us no, we could conform by removing those pavers, that pavilion, that shed, to get us down to that 35%. I'm hoping you won't make us pull the pavers of the pool and of the front of the driveway, and being that the pool was permitted and that it was accepted then. We're removing the shed already, I guess, if you guys tell us we need to take the pavilion too. But maybe, it's a wooden pavilion.
Yeah, it's just a
But
big
it's on
wooden,
top of
it's a big wooden,
pavers, right?
You're
four-post
right.
structure that has like my smoker and my grill and a couple chairs underneath it.
Yeah.
So I understand that it's more than the 35%. It was a surprise to me. I just don't want to tear up my driveway. And I'd love to keep the pavilion because that's where I have my stuff. But if I need to get rid of the pavilion and we're still over, I think that would be acceptable to me.
So in addition to the shed being gone, which sounds like it's less than 0.1%.
Right.
You've also, the 41.7% does not account for you removing the screened enclosure.
Correct.
Do you have any idea what the square footage of that was?
I believe it's on that paperwork. Christian, do you see that called out? What the screen enclosure was?
The screen enclosure was 141 square feet.
Okay.
Almost 200 square.
Yeah, screen. I see screen porch is 199, right?
That's what it says.
Yeah, screen porch is 199.
I was looking at the revised calculations. It says remove screen and porch at 141.
You're right. Let's say that on the bottom line.
141, you said?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, go with that number. Remove screen porch, 141. And then we have the 77, if you want to have those together.
Just a quick calculation of the dimensions on the original site plan that was submitted. It's roughly 140, so I would say 141 is probably the most accurate.
Okay.
It's gonna be roughly 2%.
Okay. Which would get us closer to 35.
Keep in mind that he hasn't had anybody complain about his property since he built this thing.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Are your neighbors aware of the work that you're doing now?
Unfortunately, they're not aware of it. Because I've got a porta potty out in the driveway by the road. I've got a pod, big pod in the driveway. Like none of the cars can go in the driveway. So they're very, very well aware of it, yes.
Have you discussed the work with them? Are they supportive of your end goal of what you're doing?
Everybody's terrific. It's a great small neighborhood and very good friends with most of them. And so yeah, to the left, to the right, and across the street, they all know what's going on. And I've even showed them, brought them in the house, but yeah. So yes, to answer your question.
Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, you can be seated for now, and I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any speakers cards?
No speakers cards.
Is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak? And if so, please fill out a card before you leave. Okay, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 22-100070 for lot coverage of 39.7%. Based on testimony and evidence provided, the request has met the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So we're removing the shed and the screen porch, is that what we're doing?
That's right.
Okay.
Based on the applicant and the agent.
I have a question for Christian, I think. Should the structure that we leave it by the pavilion itself, by the pool, should that be permitted? Just leave it alone?
Would approving this kind of handle the non-permitting factor of the pergola that's there?
Yeah, it would depend on the structure and the size, whether it would require a permit or not. If it did, then it would be through the building department and it would assume be a relatively simple permit. But I'm not sure if they would require one or not, or something like that. Nothing that we would do would make it compliant with the building code or not. So you don't have to worry about that portion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request has been approved as amended to 39.7% lot coverage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 23-100071, property address 700 11th Avenue South. Motion to consider 34-338E1C3 for rear yard setback of 17 feet and 30 feet minimum. 34-336E1E for lot coverage of 42% and lieu of 35% maximum to allow for an attached composite studio patio cover.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication?
I've had none.
None.
I've had none.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please be sworn in and give your testimony?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Please each state your name and address.
My name is Sharon Bowden. I'm the owner, and the address is 700 11th Avenue South, Jackson.
My name is John Hunt. I work for the company that's proposing to build the patio cover for Sharon Bowden.
Thank you. Can you please tell us the nature of the hardship of the property?
Well, we are requesting to reduce the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 17 feet and increase the maximum lot coverage from 35% to 42% because the width of the property is substandard. Right now, she just doesn't have any way to enjoy her backyard. So what we are proposing is to build this 14 by 12 aluminum composite roof and install a gutter with a downspout.
And are there currently any side yard setback issues on the property, and will this encroach into side yard at all?
No, it won't, and we're proposing to run the downspout of the gutter. It would go into the larger portion of the backyard, which is the arrow on the right-hand side. Right there. But no, it's just the rear setback that we are encroaching on.
Any other questions for the applicant?
You talking to neighbors?
Yes.
What is it?
I did get a letter from one of them, which I turned in, and he abuts my townhouse. He has no problems. None of the other ones have any problems as well.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Hearing none, you can be seated for now. Do we have any, and I'm sorry, the public hearing, do we have any speakers cards?
We just have one from John Hunt.
Yeah, sorry.
Same job.
Filled it out in error.
All good. Is there anyone in the audience who has not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on the item? Okay. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 23-100-071. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Seems pretty simplistic.
Yeah, so with the width being non-conforming, you know, the hardship, I guess, is that they have nowhere to go but back or, you know, lengthwise on the property, which then creates the need for the rear yard setback. And it does seem like a minimal amount of extra coverage, while still leaving what looks to be a decent amount of yard space left undeveloped. Any further discussion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Alexia Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request has been approved.
Thank you.
Can we call the next case, please?
Board calls BOA 23-100-072. Property address 525 North 10th Avenue. Motion to consider 34-336 E1E for lot coverage of 38.9% in lieu of 35% maximum. 34-336 E1C3 for a rear yard setback of 15 feet in lieu of 30 feet. And 34-336 E1G for an accessory structure setback of 1 foot in lieu of 5 feet minimum from the west property line to allow for new pavers and a shed addition to an existing single-family dwelling and to address existing nonconformities.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak once we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
None.
No.
And I've had none. Would the applicant or agent please be sworn in and give your testimony?
Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please each state your name and address.
Brian Sass, 249 River Shore Lane, St. Augustine.
Mark Casey Connor, general contractor.
Thank you. Can you tell us the nature of the hardship of this property?
The rear setback, I believe the property is an older home back in the 50s, and the setbacks, I believe, were different back then. And so no current construction has been done. We are looking to renovate the inside of the home as well as the outside, and this has come up through the building process. The rear setback doesn't meet current conforming rules. And there was a shed at the back that we're looking to remove, and we're looking to replace it with a smaller shed that we wanted to put on the left side of the property. It's on the next page. There you go. And then we wanted to reconfigure where there was existing pavers on this property. We're looking to reduce the square footage, but still keep it with with it going over what's existing. So I think with those two things being said, I think Brian had mentioned that he's already talked to the client to the left where the shed is closest to their property, and one thing they requested is that us add a gutter to the side, their property side, and bringing the water back onto our property,
Which is fine. I mean, it's a good idea, good request. So, and just to clarify, that the extension that pushes it to 15 feet in the back, I think, was a 1963 extension. So, it's a 50-year ago thing. And so we're not proposing to change the footprint of the house. It's just really kind of clean up the sidewalk that goes around that upper right side, which is sunk and it's kind of dysfunctional. So we're just going to take that out and then clean, streamline the patio, because where the insets are, you can see there's two little insets were for palm trees, which are now 50 feet tall, and they're cracking that patio. So we're just going to bring it inside of that line.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I think, just a note, I think we're going from about 42% coverage to 39, or with just a little change. Wow. So,
You're removing that shed in the back corner?
yes, yeah, we're sort of swapping the shed in the back corner for the one in the front.
And what's the reason for moving the other shed up front? And
Just to better access to the driveway for bikes and beach gear.
Any other questions? Okay. You can be seated for now, and I'll open the public hearing. Do you have any speakers cards?
No speakers cards.
Is there anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker's card who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve POA 23-100072. Based on testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-286 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Non-conforming lot, and they're not looking to grab more lot coverage than we're actually looking to reduce lot coverage. So I think that's a fairly reasonable request based on what's there right now.
The neighbors are okay with the shed?
Yeah.
And the applicant didn't mention this, but as per our staff report, the lot is only 7,500 square feet, so it's undersized by about 2,500 square feet. So the fact that they're asking for actually a reduction of what's there already, even though it's over the 35%, given the hardship of their size, I think it's more than reasonable. Any other discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Your request has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we call the last case, please?
Board calls BOA 23-100073. Property address 23 Quail Lane. Motion to consider 34-336 E1C3 for a rear yard setback of 22.9 feet in lieu of 30 feet minimum. 34-336E1G for an accessory setback, or excuse me, an accessory structure, pool deck, setback of 2.7 feet in lieu of 5 feet minimum. 34-336E1E for lot coverage of 38% in lieu of 35% maximum to allow for an addition, pool pavers, and decking.
Thank you. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak when we open the public hearing. Does any board member have ex parte communication on this item?
I've had none.
I did. I had a phone call with Mr. Powell, just in general about how to apply for a variance. And then nothing really about it.
Matt?
I've had none.
And I've had none. Would the applicant please be sworn in to give your testimony?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please each state your name and address.
Matthew Powell, 23 Quail Lane, Jacksonville Beach.
Carla Powell, 23 Berlin.
Thank you. Can you tell us the nature of your hardship?
Due to the fact that the Marsh West Side drive of our property is considered a front yard setback, I guess, we had to change the design, first of all, and the placement of our pool to be 20 feet off of that property line. And in doing so, I think we moved it out a little bit also. So we don't have a clear walkway in regards to the 2-foot part closest to the property line. So we wanted to run pavers there. Our neighbor to our rear has sent in an email saying that he has no problem with the pavers coming up to that fence line. That fence line is actually 1.6 feet inside. I don't know the exact number, but actually on our property by a foot and change. He sent an email saying he was okay with that. We just want to be able to enjoy our pool. Surfside built our pool, which was a endeavor, to say the least, with Surfside. So we just want to be able to get all the way around our pool. We're not going to put anything on the west side of that pool because we can't, because there's nothing that's allowed to be built there due to that previous setback. And in regards to the 38%, if there's some concern about that from the board, I'd be happy to install a catch basin or a dry well of some sort in order to catch even more water than needed if that's a necessity. As far as the 30-foot setback in the back, you buy a corner lot in Jacks Beach, and due to all the setbacks, you're restricted as you can't build anything on it. When you go 20 feet in from your property line on the left side, 20 feet in from your property line on the front, and 30 feet in from the back. I mean, our houses, our patio that's there is already there, so we wouldn't have been able to build anything there anyway. And they had some concern about the egress between the right-hand shed there in the corner and the end of our stairwell of our proposed addition being less than 5 feet, but it's actually 5'4". I believe that the 5 foot was the minimum. Is there any other questions that you had for me?
So can you just point out what on the property you put in and what was there when you purchased the home?
The only thing that we've put in
Is the pool?
is the pool. And that waving, that granite waving pathway is going to be torn out in order to allow us to put in the decking and the pavers. That left-hand red shaded part of the patio is also going to come out and will be replaced with decking.
Decking, yeah.
Decking. And that's it.
The new addition is going where it was already concrete.
So
That's right, we're not changing that. The new addition is going where the old concrete is already there. However, the property does cantilever, the addition does cantilever west, north, and east. It does not cantilever south, but it would be over existing house anyway. So
And you've calculated that cantilevering into your lot coverage request?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just to clarify, the 38% that's calculated based on you moving the stuff you're saying?
Yes, removing things that are there now, and because the wood is is more permeable than the pathway that's there, so which our architect has calculated that changing it to the decking would end up with 38%, even though we're increasing the area of coverage in that area. The removing of that paver helps us out a great deal.
Is that accurate, Christian? Or not?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
And sorry if I'm relaying this incorrectly, but I think I understand the applicant to say that their builder calculated a deck, a wood deck,
Wooden deck, yeah.
at less coverage percentage than the pavers that are currently there.
Correct. If a wood deck has at least quarter-inch spacing between the boards, we count that at 50% lot coverage.
Yeah, it's on here as 50% on the new layout lot coverage.
Okay.
Does the reason why we're building it have anything to do with?
We can't consider that.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
you're welcome to tell us, but we're not allowed to factor that into our decision.
It is not an Airbnb decision.
We're also not allowed to factor that into our
Okay.
decision either, but.
We have family strewn from South Florida to Georgia to Jersey to Arizona, and we're having a kid soon, hopefully, and we just want some more of our family to be able to come in and stay and help us with the baby.
Well, and also to be able to enjoy our backyard, because it's just not, there's no continuity back there. There's no way, there's grass, and then there's pool. So there's no pavers, there's no nothing back there currently, so we don't have any decking or anything. We just did the coping around the pool. So it's really hard to enjoy our backyard when the grass is going crazy everywhere and we don't have any pool deck.
And can you reiterate, I'm sorry, I think you touched on this, but if you could just reiterate, was there a reason for building the pool as far back on the property
Yes.
line as you did?
The left-hand side of our property is considered a front yard, I guess, because it's a side yard.
Okay.
So from our property line, which is right there where that fence is, we had to bring the pool in 20 feet in order to not be in a permanent structure inside that setback. We had to change the design of the pool, we had to change where we put it, and we went coping only. I originally was going to build the addition and not have it encumbered with all the permeable and stuff in the deck and everything. They said, no, when you come, you need to tell us everything that you need. So that's what we had everything drawn up. We had our architect redraw everything and our French changed so that we could bring it in and get everything approved.
And what about having it as far north on the property as it is? Was there a reason for that?
Yes, there was. So I was attached to this shaped granite pathway because it was part of the original home. And our previous pool design mirrored that circle. And I was going to build a deck on this side, on the south side of that waving pathway that matched that same curve, like a zero Miyagi deck, you know? It was going to be really nice, but that all went out the window when we had to change the design of the pool and bring it in. So that's why we pushed it out, was to allow for that concrete path to stay there.
Yeah, they had to be a certain distance from the path.
Okay, and that was all there from the previous owner?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I do. So I'm looking at this, you have a conforming lot. So help me understand where the hardship is. What's the special condition circumstance that exists which are peculiar to this parcel of land?
In regards to what aspect of our request?
I guess the lot coverage.
Because your lot coverage is over 10,000 square feet, so it's over the minimum.
You mean our area of our lot?
Well, it's,
Yes.
Oh.
I think because we have a corner lot, so we're limited also on that side yard,
Yeah,
that we can't build anything.
Yeah, we can't do anything 20 feet in from our, not just from the street, but from our property line. We had to come into our own property line 20 feet on the left-hand side, and then the restrictions on the back are 30 feet in. I mean, it's...
And did you say that one edge of your property is on the marsh side?
Marsh
Yeah.
Drive side, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a road there. So I guess
Yeah, we're on
because
the
of future possible widening, property line there too, so we're restricted there.
Restricted
in
to
front,
our back
restricted in
corner.
the back, so we just wanted to, come before you folks and see.
Can you help orient me using the photo, top left, right, bottom, what the front of your home is?
Yes, sir.
As?
This pathway here is our address street side.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The small
So-
path.
So the neighbor, so there's two neighbors kind of split the front of our house. These folks are fine with it. We're really good friends with these folks. The people that are immediately west, I cut down a tree in his yard last year when it fell, and we're golden ever since then. And Frank, the rear neighbor behind us, has already sent in a letter saying he was okay with everything. I don't have a relationship with Lydia, right? She's kind of a recluse. She doesn't come out much, but I also cleaned up her yard in the storm last year, so trying to be the best neighbor possible, because I knew we were going to be making some requests, so. That answer your question, Mr. White? That's, sorry.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, you can be seated, and I will now open the public hearing. No speakers cards, I
Thank you.
assume,
No speakers cards,
and no correspondence.
no correspondence.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 23-100073. Based on the testimony and evidence provided, the request has met all the standards for variance as outlined in section 34-386 of the Land Development Code. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I was stuck on the special condition and circumstance, but I think the applicant had a justified explanation for that being a corner lot and the setbacks that are required. I do note that he is removing some of the existing impervious surface. So again, it's not a all-in-all out grab for more lot coverage. It seems to be somewhat restrained.
Yeah, and I would add too that hearing the applicants describe the nature of their property, but also the existing factors that they kind of inherited when they purchased it, understanding why they built the pool the way that they did, and because obviously having it where it is on the property line requires them to add a little bit more paving to get that link from the structure of their home to the pool. But it helps to understand the reason that they built it that way was because of pre-existing features of the home and the lot coverage that were there when they purchased it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Owen Curley,
Yes.
Todd Smith,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Alexi Gonzalez.
Yes. Your request has been approved.
Thank you for your time, folks.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Can we have the planning department report, please?
I believe we have 6 cases for your next hearing.
Yeah, you can go.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. We have 5 or 6 cases for your next hearing, so that should be another good one. And we have still not scheduled the next round of hearings on the Land Development Code comp plan update, although we have gotten the first round of data and analysis from the consultant, and we're in the process of reviewing that now. So hopefully that's in the works, but it's just taking a long time. This is really the hard part, was actually doing the writing. So once we have those dates, we will get them to you, but as of now, it's still to be determined.
Okay, and I believe the next meeting, because it's the first week in September, will we meet on a Wednesday, because it'll be Labor Day?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.